they come, nigga girls, nobody have no fear.
Introducing high-definition film from Kodak.
From bulky rotary phones to clunky card catalogs, the 1970s saw a wave of new devices being introduced, but also witnessed the decline of many of these once essential items. Here are things from the 1970s, once completely necessary and now obsolete.
A large pack is under $3. As for vending machines, where a small pack is $3.50.
Cigarette vending machines. Let's have a look at the rise and fall of the once celebrated cigarette vending machine. Like snack vending machines, cigarette machines enjoyed significant popularity in the 70s. Although they were introduced in the early 20th century, they reached the peak of popularity during the 70s. Companies like National Vendors, Rowe International, and more were major contributors to its design and distribution of the machine. Their 24/7 availability made them more popular than ever. You could get a cigarette whenever you wanted. They were available in almost every public place. These machines were intentionally placed in high-traffic areas featuring eye-catching branding to attract a potential customer. Introduced with appealing offers which seemed lucrative for customers and budget-friendly people, such as buy one get one free deals. In the 1970s, the cost of a pack of cigarettes from a vending machine ranged from 50 cents to $1, depending on brand and location. But as prices increased over the years due to higher taxes, the machines became less practical for users who could find a cheaper option elsewhere. By the late 20th century, many countries had introduced age restrictions and other regulations, further contributing to the decline of the cigarette vending machine.
Played on jukeboxes across America.
And when we get behind,
The Jukebox. Wurlitzer Zodiac 3500, Seeburg Wall-O-Matic. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Jukeboxes were incredibly popular in the 20th century, especially during the 50s and the 70s. They were like the Spotify of their time. You paid to listen to your music, but you could choose the songs you wanted to hear. The coin-operated machines played pre-recorded songs, providing a personal touch to music enjoyment in the public space. Jukeboxes became a standard feature in cafes, bars, and restaurants, elevating the social experience to brand new heights. Just imagine a crisp and cool evening in the 1970s as you walked into a cafe. Fresh coffee fills the air and the jukebox is playing Staying Alive. It sounds like a core memory. Not only did it create a memorable experience for customers, but also provided an additional source of revenue for store owners. Jukeboxes went under significant upgrades in the 70s, evolving from their rock and roll roots. This era saw the introduction of advanced features like 45s and stereophonic sound, along with automated selection mechanisms, which allowed users to queue up multiple songs. Playing a song typically cost between a dime and a quarter, and while the cost itself varied based on the model and features, the jukeboxes could range from $500 to $2,000. However, with the rise of new technologies like the cassette tape and eventually the CD, it offered people the freedom to listen to their favorite music whenever and wherever they wanted. And the popularity of the jukebox began to decline. But what were some of your jukebox favorites? Let me know in the comments below.
You've got to know how the pieces fit. TV Guide puts it all together.
TV Guide. On April the 3rd of 1953, Walter Annenberg's Triangle Publications published the first TV Guide, featuring a weekly schedule of television programming across all major networks and local stations. And the guide became a lifesaver in an era that didn't feature remote controls or on-screen listings. By the 70s, as the number of channels and shows increased, the guide became an essential resource, keeping up with the expanding landscape of television. It provided all the information viewers needed about a show, including summaries, timings, and other details for watching different programs. It was also affordable, costing anywhere between 15 cents and a quarter per issue. It was widely available everywhere and included not only schedules but also tidbits about Hollywood, which kept readers hooked and engaged. During its peak, it was one of the highest circulated magazines in America with over 20 million copies sold weekly. But the company faced criticism for manipulating its content to favor certain networks and programs due to financial and promotional deals. As media consumption evolved, TV Guide transitioned from print to digital to stay relevant in the changing media landscape. The shift would mark a significant change in how people access TV information, highlighting the more broad transformation in media consumption habits. Newspaper vending machines. Newspaper vending machines were an iconic urban feature, especially during the 20th century, offering readers a convenient and practical way to access newspapers and at an incredibly cheap cost. And they were also located everywhere, offering anyone a newspaper at any time they liked. Publishers often ran ads in their own papers to highlight the convenience of buying from vending machines. Despite their importance and peak in popularity in the 70s, digital news and the rise of the internet led to a decline in sales and eventually obsolescence of newspaper vending machines. As news consumption shifted to online, the need for the physical machine diminished. Not only were they convenient, they were also a frequent target of theft and vandalism. People would break into the machines to steal money or take multiple copies of the paper, leading to increased costs for the companies. This, coupled with the rise of digital news, contributed to the decline of newspaper vending machines. Despite their decline, many still vividly remember the crisp Monday mornings with coffee and the paper, and those inky fingers surely bring back memories. The Rolodex. The Rolodex was a blend of rolling and index and a practical desktop file system designed for organizing contacts. It served as a personal organizer, offering a simple physical method to keep everything in one place. The Rolodex was especially useful for secretaries, salespeople, and executives who needed quick access to business contacts before the advent of modern technology. Various sizes and models of the Rolodex catered to different needs, fitting the requirements of individuals across a whole lot of fields regardless of the size of their establishment. Maybe you even still have a Rolodex on your desk, or you've come across somebody using one.
Now, if you ever go into a library, these are very familiar to you. Here in the health-related sciences, the old card catalogs, but here at the University of Maryland.
Card catalogs in libraries. Card catalogs in libraries were a hallmark of the 20th century library systems, providing a systematic way to keep track of books and other resources. Users could search for materials by author, title, subject, and other criteria using index cards, which facilitated efficient access to library resources. Card catalogs allowed librarians to maintain detailed records of the library's holdings, which included acquisition details, location, and circulation history. It was one of the most practical systems of its time, but as efficient as it was, the rise of online catalogs in the 21st century took over the use of card catalogs in the end.
Check out Phil's pants. Where's the flood?
Answering machines. In the 1970s, a revolutionary change transformed communication with the introduction of the answering machine. The device managed phone calls and messages before voicemail and digital communication systems became widespread. Although the concept of an answering machine dates back to the early 20th century, consumer-friendly technology was developed in the 1970s. Answering machines allowed users to record messages from callers when they were unavailable, reducing missed calls and improving communication efficiently. Popularity led to widespread adoption with millions of units sold in the US alone. And perhaps you had a funny pre-recorded message of your own. The punch clock. Punch clocks or time clocks were essential devices in the 1970s for tracking employee working hours. Employees were issued a time card they would punch on entering and exiting the workplace, and it accurately recorded their working hours and simplified payroll. By automating timekeeping, businesses were able to reduce the cost of labor associated with manual tracking and calculation, but the advent of digital timekeeping systems and computerized payroll software eventually led to the fall of the punch clock.
Telex is instant, inexpensive, and it's in writing. That's why 38,000 companies like us.
The Telex machine. The sequence of communication technologies goes like this. Before emails became common, fax machines were in use, and before the fax, there was the Telex. Telex provided a reliable method for sending written messages over long distances, enabling businesses to communicate both quickly and efficiently. The idea of communicating overseas was fascinating to many users, especially since Telex had its own set of codes and signaled incoming messages with a ringing bell. However, communications were not secure. Messages could potentially be intercepted or read by unauthorized parties. The significant drawbacks of Telex led to its gradual decline in use over the years.
One token gets any game alright. That's token power. It can make everyone happy.
Tokens. The concept of tokens was popular in the 70s and often associated with vending machines, arcade games, and public transportation. They were a condensed form of standard payment, and given that they had no value outside of a place like an arcade or a transit system, the idea of stealing them or people haggling over them was not common. Arcade tokens could be bought for around 5 to 10 cents each when purchased in bulk, but some charged more or offered a different deal. They were a common thing, but they were also uniquely designed and regarded as a collectible. Perhaps you even have some old tokens in a drawer somewhere.
Fuji's advanced technology has developed Fujicolor Super HR film with ultra-thin color layers.
Camera film. Those hazy 1970s memories captured on film cameras recalls a nostalgic and dreamy feeling. With today's high-def cameras, the photos from those days often have a heart-touching and ethereal quality. They provided high-quality images with rich detail and color depth, which photographers cherished and considered a valuable treasure. Companies like Kodak and Fuji promoted their film products as essential tools for capturing life's moments, emphasizing reliability and superior image quality. Film also had its drawbacks, like image degradation over time if not stored properly, leading to the potential loss of irreplaceable photographs. It's refreshing to see that film and disposable cameras are regaining popularity with Gen Z.
Nice outfits, but I'd wear rain gear if I were you.
Who said that?
I did. I'm the new talking phone book from Info Plus.
It's cute.
Phone books. Before digital directories became the norm, phone books were widely in use. The first one was published in New Haven, Connecticut in 1878 by the New Haven District Telephone Company, and initially it was a simple directory with just 50 names and no phone numbers. Interestingly, companies often chose names beginning with A to ensure their listings appeared first in the phone book, a clever hack from back then. The easy access to information also led to an increase in cold calls. For customers, it was a win-win because they could readily obtain information about businesses they were interested in. The Yellow Pages became a crucial advertising platform for local businesses, enabling them to reach customers directly. Perhaps you recall those bulky Yellow Pages for fun of prank calling random numbers.
With Sharp's choice of fax machines, you can send documents in as little as 12 seconds to any place in the world you can phone.
Fax machines. Telecopying or telefax was the 20th century equivalent of Gmail for sending documents. Before the advent of the fax machine, sending copies of a confidential letter and form through couriers and traditional mail could take a long time. The concept of the fax machine dates back to the 19th century, with the first version known as the pantelegraph, invented by Alexander Bain in 1843. The technology went under several upgrades, and by the 60s, the Xerox Corporation dominated the market with the introduction of the MagnaFax. This model was lighter, faster, and even more practical than any earlier version. Despite the advantages, fax machines, typically handled 5 to 6 pages per use, were notorious for paper jams, an experience familiar to anyone who used them. Once considered a valuable investment, they gradually fell out of favor by the early 2000s, but they haven't disappeared entirely and are still in use in some workplaces today. Carbon paper. Kids these days might not even know what carbon paper is. Before photocopiers became common, carbon paper was used to create additional copies of a document. While it didn't have a strong smell, the faint scent of carbon paper was often appreciated. The term CC in today's emails stands for carbon copy and actually derives from this process. For invoices, receipts, contracts, and anything requiring multiple copies, it was a time saver, eliminating the need to rewrite the document. Although its use has declined, it hasn't disappeared entirely, and perhaps you even still use it at your workplace. The boombox. The boombox, also known as the ghetto blaster, defined the peak of music in the 70s and 80s, popularized by companies like Sony and Panasonic. The early models like the CFS 110 and Panasonic's RX 5010 played a significant role in the boombox's rise to fame. Unlike other music systems, the boombox was both handy and portable. Though it may not compare to today's compact Bluetooth speakers, it was a sizable and versatile piece of equipment. Boomboxes were everywhere at parties, poolside gatherings, beaches, picnic parks, and more. Equipped with batteries, it could operate without being plugged in, enhancing the portability and convenience. People viewed them as a solid investment that came along for generations, and rumors have it that some still have their boomboxes stashed away in a garage or an attic.
Payphone providers reported $286 million in revenue in 2015.
Payphones. Before people began using cell phones in the early 2000s, phone calls were made using a payphone. The 1970s through the 90s were dominated by pagers and payphones, and people often found ways to save a few cents on every call. Here's a quick glimpse at how they did it.
First name Bob, last name is We Oughta Baby Eats a Boy.
Hello?
Collect call for Mr. Bob. We oughta baby eats a boy.
Sorry, wrong number.
Payphones came in clutch for making quick emergency calls at a time when not everyone had a cell or a home phone. They were especially convenient for travelers needing to stay in touch while on the move in the pre-mobile phone era. At their peak, there were over 2 million payphones in the United States alone. However, technological advancements introduced new devices that gradually replaced the payphone, marking the ending of an entire era of nostalgia and memory. Perhaps you remember a time when people walked around without a phone in their hands.
The Wheelwriter typewriters and the Quietwriter typewriter. A new generation of typewriters from the company that makes the typewriters.
Typewriters. Would you believe that the creators of the QWERTY keyboard layout, which we use today, also invented the mechanical typewriter? The first commercially successful model, the Scholes and Glidden typewriter, was developed by Christopher Latham Scholes in 1868 and marketed by Remington and Sons in 1874. They became essential tools for screenwriters, authors, journalists, and anyone who needed to type something up. Also considered thoughtful gifts from parents to students who were about to start college. Breaking the habit of double spacing after sentences is a common practice amongst typewriter users. Transitioning from typewriters to computers often results in spacing errors at the end of sentences. And of course, we all remember slamming multiple keys on a typewriter all at once. Punch cards. Punch or perforated cards played a significant role in early computing and data processing, and the concept of the punch card goes back to the early 19th century with their invention in 1801 for use in weaving looms. In the world of early computing, punch cards were used for inputting, storing, and processing data, serving as a primary method for batch processing in large-scale computing operations. For kids at home, they were often made into crafts, like stapling them together to make small Christmas wreaths. And for college students, they were a nightmare. Spending hours typing out cards, only to watch the program crash, was a common experience.
You ever notice how winding your window down by hand makes you look lower middle class?
Manual car windows. Last on the list is manual car windows, known as the crank. These were amongst the most popular features in vehicles during the 20th century, and as the name would suggest, the driver or passenger had to manually control the movement of the window using a hand crank. The method was one of the most cost-effective designs in vehicles during the 70s. The manual window mechanism was simple and reliable, with fewer parts that could break compared to the electric window systems. Additionally, manual windows required minimal maintenance compared to their electric counterparts. Vehicles with manual windows were generally less expensive than those equipped with electric, and the price varied depending on the make and model of the car, but was often in the range of a few $100s. But what do you prefer, the ease of a button or the nostalgia of a crank? Well, these were 20 things that were once useful but not so much today. What's your favorite thing that you still miss? Let me know in the comments down below, and also subscribe to the channel so you never miss another great memory in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.